Welcome back to the home build. Today we're going to be talking about insulation in the ceilings, walls, floor, and as well as sound insulation and that sort of thing. So let's go ahead and we're going to get started. We're going to start off by looking at the set of plans. So every part of the United States and world, the codes are just a little bit different depending on the zoning. So here in Oregon, there's a few codes. So as far as insulation goes in the ceiling, they're requiring R49. In this set of plans, R21 is what it is for walls. There's always little things, little tricks you can do to get that. You can frame with a 2x4 walls, but what it's gonna say in the code is R19 batt width plus 2, not 21, 20, yeah, plus 2. That means R2 insulation on the exterior. If you have a 2x6 frame wall, just like this is, it requires R21. So what our plan is here in this project is to do batt insulation. And then we'll take a look at the wall is R30. So those kind of are our areas here. If we got vaulted ceilings, that sort of thing, it's going to be slightly different, R30. So check those codes. Check the codes before you build, before you frame, and to make sure you comply. So R21, let's get started on our walls. So you can see here, we have our batt insulation. It's our paper batt. They are also going to say on each batt is right here, R21. So what that means is for that insulation, it has an R value of R21. The stud itself, like I said in other videos, is about R1, just a little over R1 per inch. So a 2x6, that's going to be about an R6. So the farther spaced out your studs are and more insulation, the higher the R value, the better the energy efficiency for your home. So here, since this is an exterior wall, it requires a vapor barrier on the inside, and it requires a vapor barrier on the outside. The outside's that Tyvek, the waterproofing WRB, weather resistant barrier that's on the outside of buildings. The inside of an exterior wall like this also requires this, okay? Now, this is what the insulating contractor did. I'd like to pick it apart just to show kind of a good and a better method. A good method is just tucking it in like it is, making sure you're tight against each side. But a better method to have a continuous vapor barrier, so that is to have these flanges stapled onto the face. Now, sheetrockers, they don't like it so much because you can't see that. But you know what? All these spaces right here, air can get through. Staple that over. That air, it stops that vapor. So the vapor barrier on the inside and the outside, there's the dew point depending on the season where it's located within the wall. At that dew point is where it condensates. If you have a vapor barrier on the inside and a vapor barrier on the outside, it stops that vapor from entering the wall, which stops the dew point, or excuse me, which stops it condensating. So that's important. Now, if it's all tucked out like this is okay. Here by code, that's acceptable. Now, a better method, like I said, staple that over. A little more work, making sure your staples are flush. So this here, when this flange is wrapped over like that, which is what I'm going to do here shortly, start stapling that like that, have a continuous vapor barrier. That way no vapor can get in behind here, because the vapor does move through sheetrock. It's very slow, but it does. So that's the walls. As far as this is a second floor. This is a 2-story house. So this insulation right up here is just for sound insulation. So as we watch TV, there's a bedroom upstairs, actually two. It helps it really helps cut down on the sound transferring through the ceiling. Without that, there's a hollow cavity, and then the sound vibrations just go right on through, and you can almost hear word for word that TV playing upstairs. Without that, sound insulation cuts it down to almost nothing. Now, an area where it could be going through is venting like that, because you can't quite get that insulation to block that sound, but that's a specific spot. So and that sort of thing. Notice that up here on the headers, so I have, which I'm stoked about, is insulated headers. By code, you could have a full depth, you know, a 6x12 header up there, but like I said before, that would have an R6. Now, with having that insulation foil back, I had to double check that. So it even says in my plans, for insulated headers, with insulated headers, header voids shall be insulated with rigid insulation with a minimum R value of 4 per inch thickness. So with these up here are going to have about 2 inches, so that automatically gives me another additional R value of 8. So I'm loving that. Gives it just a little bit more. Of course, having the more windows you have, that kind of decreases, but every little bit helps. So we got exterior walls, we got sound insulation, insulated headers down at the bottom where our stem wall meets the sole plate. This subfloor rests on top of it, and then I got a bottom plate for the framing. That's how it's typically framed here in the Pacific Northwest. And there's a spot without that caulking right there. Air can leak and go out directly to the outside. Plus, bugs, ants, and that sort of thing can make their way in and out on those lower spots right there. So clean that real well, caulk it. That stops that air traveling through. Also stops the ants. So very good point to be doing that particular thing. All right, electrical boxes for your insulation. They did an okay job. Okay, they cut it out. Typically when you cut it out, you want to tuck in behind, which, here's a spot where they peeled it apart, tucked the insulation behind. That's pretty nice. The last one I looked at, it wasn't tucked in behind. So looking all around, they tucked. So looking down at another one, it's all tucked in behind. You could also spray foam behind it. Here I put spray foam on these where these wires are going into the outlet, just as far as another air block right there. So that works great. Go around, peel it back so you can see, maybe right there, it's not really peeled apart and tucked in behind it. So by tucking it in behind it, it stops that air from traveling through the box. Okay, get that tucked in. This is a spot where the framing looks like it was a little bit wider. Right in here, so you can see this gap right here. No insulation. That needs to have a full batt. That should get a little cut piece tucked over here. So if you just nail it or staple this like that, if you look for an infrared camera, you'll have a nice bright or a dark or a bright spot right here where air where it's not insulated. So not air, but air can get through there. But also if there's a pocket like this, that area right there that's not insulated could also sweat. So spray foam in those little gaps, that's kind of a nice touch. But where they failed is right here. So I'm kind of disappointed in that. Bottle of spray foam, spray that in there. That'll help kind of clean that up. And so that's what I'll end up doing there. All right, we're up here on the second floor. We got sound insulation where the bathroom is. So this is the bathroom right here, as well as the mechanical area. when that's going, TV's going, we don't want to be listening to that. So that helps block that sound. Anybody using the bathroom, shower, and that sort of thing, blocks that sound. And you'd be amazed at how much it actually does block that sound. So here's a couple more exterior walls. This one's over top of the garage. The garage is not heated and that sort of thing, so still requires that and that sort of thing. So pretty good job. There's a few areas that I got to go touch up and whatnot. As far as the ceiling goes, R49, that's got to be after sheetrock. So once they put all this sheetrock up into the ceiling, then that's going to be blown in insulation. So that's at that point. But what they have done is these baffles. So this is a cardboard material. It goes down to the vent. So there's venting on that end, and when they blow in, you can't have insulation right around that the vents. So put that baffled in so air can travel through and up and on up to the vents up above. So and that sort of thing. Great time to be putting it before sheetrock. Nice and easy. There's an area over here in the corner that I'll show you, that a little trick to when you have a more narrow space between the joists. So this particular one here, they can, if it's trimmed in such a way like they did, you can just bend that cardboard. Gives it a little bit bigger space, which is okay, but without having to trim it. So all those are kind of a pressure fit up in there. Couple staples holding it in place. Okay, there's only like 3 staples. So pretty awesome that they did that now, and it's ready to go, so you don't have to worry about that later up in the attic. Another nice detail for air traveling between the floors, between the attic and the exterior walls, and as well as interior walls, is that little foam strip right there. So when they put sheetrock up over it, it gives it a little bit of a cushion, a little barrier for air to be traveling between the attic, through the wall, and down to an outlet, or even through the bottom of the sheetrock and into the home. So having that's a good detail. After that goes in, after sheetrock goes in, ceiling, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna spray foam where that wall, or the sheetrock, where the wall meets the ceiling. I'm gonna be putting spray foam up there to help really seal that up. Now, some people are gonna say, don't make them too tight as far as air tightness. Well, the windows I have, there's some little bit of air leakage. You're gonna get air coming in and that sort of thing. So I'm not too worried about air tightness to that point. Now, if I had better windows, better insulated, better gasketing, that sort of thing, then by all means you need to have some sort of air circulator, bringing in a little bit of fresh air, heating it before it gets to the inner part of the house, and that sort of thing. But check other videos on that type of conditions. So, but in this case, I want to seal it up the best I can to eliminate heating, cooling, unnecessary air, moisture coming in, rotting, molding, condensating, areas where I don't want it to. So that's the reasoning. All right, here's another thing. So we got exterior walls with our paper-faced vapor barrier insulation. They had one piece that wasn't quite long enough for these taller ceilings in here. So this area right here is a break in our vapor barrier. Taking something like, I mean, just as simple as Tyvek tape or some sort of tape that across, that seals up that vapor barrier. It stops it. So this is an area where I'm going to come through and I'm going to tape across there, seal that up, and anywhere else that I can kind of seal up. Just every little bit helps, and somewhere to keep that vapor barrier blocked and sealed, that's what I'm gonna do. So right in here is another. Make sure you dig out all this foam, stuff like that, so when they're putting their sheetrock on, they're not just going right over top of that and it creates a bulge in it. So that'll get done. Here's another spot right here. I got a hole, a space, and that's got to get filled. So make sure you fill any areas like that. Maybe another principle to think about is, you know, every inch. So there's probably about a total of 4 square inches. You know, a little bit, a few inches down here, because there's a hole down right here. Okay, and then you start going all around the entire house, adding up all those inches. Well, heck, you might have a 2 foot by 2 foot area uninsulated, or worse, air's just going right through it, and it's like a window, 2 foot by 2 foot window open. So try to get every spot that you. So here's that same area. Got that continuous vapor barrier where the 2 pieces butt together, and as well as the flanges are stapled over top of the studs. Like I said, sheetrockers don't like it as much because they can't see the stud, but it makes a better continuous vapor barrier. And on a infrared camera, if you were to show this area, you'd see that with it lapped over like this, there's less air leakage and a better vapor barrier than as if it was just tucked in on the inside. So but by code, either way, currently is this, it could be tucked in or stapled to the face like this. Here's another spot I need to add spray foam. So you can see here's a hold down right here. There's no insulation in there, so I'm gonna take some spray foam, fill that up with spray foam, and that'll take care of this. This is going to be another area where I need to do some taping and that sort of thing. So the job's not done. All right, so now we're going to be looking at the underfloor insulation. I didn't want to pick this up yet because I wanted to show you right here. The access to it is insulated, which is awesome. So let's go take a look at that. Let's take a look at the insulation under there, see how well they did and that sort of thing. All right, down here under the insulation, the underfloor insulation needs to be an R30. So underneath here you can see they run string line just stapled back and forth with batt insulation unfaced. You don't want a vapor barrier right here, and the reason is if it does condensate in the cavity, well, right now it can just drain out, whereas with a vapor barrier it would block it, and there we go, it would block it and trap water. So on the underside, no vapor barrier, unfaced, and then between the flooring, that's where you add a vapor barrier, building paper or tar paper or some other product, and that sort of thing. So we also got our plastic. I went around a little while ago and actually fixed a lot of the plastic. Here's an area that I'll have to, at the very end, fix because you can see the ground. But what I did is this area right here, I sprayed an adhesive on some plastic, sprayed in the concrete, and stuck it, molded it to the concrete, to the footing, and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of areas that I'm gonna have to fix, and that'll be towards the very end, like this little hole here, and that sort of thing. But between my uprights that are supporting the floor, you can see that I'm molded in and around everything the best I can. That way no moisture is coming up in behind that. So insulation in the floors, insulation underneath, that is by code, and everything, and that's it. So here's kind of another shot of the insulation all in and around. So one thing that I'll do is I'll go through and I'll double check go way in those far back corners and double check that it's adequate insulation way back there, because sometimes us humans, we like to be lazy. In areas where it's hard to get to, there'll be an area where it just won't be insulated because they're like, it'll be okay. And it's not okay. So that's it. There's a lot, and I know I talk fast. Tried to talk fast because there's just so much information that I want to cover. So insulating the floors, walls, ceiling, vapor barriers, and that's about it. So down here in the bottom or underneath the floor, make sure you wear respirators and that sort of thing when you're handling this type of stuff, especially fiberglass insulation. Long sleeves, something that covers your skin, because that's where it's going to get real itchy. So that's it. Hopefully you enjoyed, maybe learned something. This is the home build, and like always, be safe out there, and I'll see you next time on the home build. All right. Spray foam that. Low expanding foam. Try to get it in behind it as well. Let that expand. And I'll come back and touch it up where I feel it needs it. And like there's a lot of missed spots. Let that expand some. And go around and double check everything.